Yes, please.
Stefan, thank you very much
Sure.
for illuminating a lot about the life of Reich and what he did. I found it very interesting on many levels, and I've got a couple of questions.
Definitely.
And one comment I'll make later. What is really interesting to me is he was persecuted.
Yes.
Whether you call it organ or chi or prana,
Yes.
this notion of a universal energy has existed way before Reich.
That's true.
I mean, Plato talked about this, Aristotle talked about this. And in the East, in Eastern philosophies, this is accepted.
Yes.
What is it about this idea of a universal invisible life force, and I'm using Platonian terms, that is threatening to the existing status quo in the medical profession in particular and in the scientific community? Why is it so threatening that it creates a collective unconscious armoring that produces the persecution that he went through?
There must be something threatening, you are right, because people, I mean, these things have not been dealt with, and Reich's theories have not gained a widespread acceptance. But what is threatening, I can say this much, that I know that it's easy when something is discovered in radiology or in microbiology, it is not us. We see it under the microscope, and it's something else that is discovered. Once anything about our own character is talked about, then it becomes threatening. So partly because of the armoring that has happened in the people, they are threatened to deal with the Reich's theories. But why armoring happens in first place, why human beings became armored, if not being unarmored was so good, that I should say that I don't know, because it is, the roots are many thousand years, goes back, and why it is so maybe they are afraid of losing, becoming burned up under this energy or whatever concept. But I should say that I don't know why they are afraid of such an energy. Why armoring happened in first place, going back to several thousand years ago. If that's your question, I don't know. If Connie, you have any?
I just have a couple of thoughts about it. I think that sometimes in Western science and development of intellectual thinking, particularly Western science, there's been a huge disconnect between science and our emotional lives. And it's always assumed in our theories of scientific development that intuition can't play a part. Things have to be extremely objective. Things have to be reproducible. And once you're dealing with any kind of phenomena that has feeling as part of its, anything that has feeling as part of it is very, very hard to quantify in that way. Very hard to objectify or reproduce or put under a microscope. And in much of our science, particularly our hard science like physics or chemistry, there's no room or there's no way for them to even integrate human feeling into, or human sensation into their scientific work. And it's only very recently in this last, I'd say, 10 years or even less, that there have been a number of, female scientists who've wanted to bring, for example, the biological sciences back into the research in physics, because physics got so split off from biology for a long time. And that's only been like right now, a woman who's the head of DARPA and the woman I think at MIT also is president of MIT. They both have emphasized that they want this reconnection to occur, which is really what Reich was doing. I mean, he really developed his ideas of physics out of his observation of human emotion and sensation and perception. And it's very, very difficult to do, but and he was always integrating the biological process into physical phenomena. So physics has never dealt with just even the fact that cells pulsate. But if you speak to a biologist, they will, know that that's obvious, a living cell pulsates. Now, why this arming occurs, he would say, because of this fear of feeling, a fear of sensation, this fear of emotion. And he kind of wrote about that extensively in this book, The Murder of Christ, where he tries to also try to understand how even it was possible that people would choose to murder the Son of God. You know, how could the ultimate symbol of, you know, absolute love and forgiveness be in fact, you know, hung on a cross? Who would do that? You know, how could a mass of people, in fact, there was not just one person obviously involved in his crucifixion. So, I mean, he does talk about that in a couple of his books, you know, why it is that so many people really struggle with this, I want to say, this coming close to the truth of their feelings, the truth of their love, the truth of their emotions. That all really triggers a lot of fear in people and resistance.
Do you have yourself any speculation?
I can speculate as well as the cows can come home. I think some of this has to do with it is about the life force. You look at the era in which these men lived in, it was a tremendous shift away from what was religious or spiritual kind of awareness to scientific, I mean, to much more rational. There was embedded in what Freud was doing a tremendous push to try and get scientific objective theories about things so that these kinds of ideas could be objectified and brought to the masses and be respected. But I'm just curious, like, you know, those are my thoughts, but I'm curious why it is that people that come up, and he's not the first one or the last one, that come up with getting close to this conundrum of identifying and defining and measuring life force. You are playing with that dichotomy between what is and isn't objective and what is and isn't spiritual. And in our society, in the West in particular, we crucify people and we persecute them for doing it. I have a second question.
Sure.
And I'm curious, he spent a lot of his life with the individual and looking at the individual's neuroses. And I've never heard of the mass psychology of fascism. I haven't read it, so I will. But other than that, did he talk about the collective conscious and how the collective forms armory?
About the collective consciousness, in his book, in the Reich of Freud, he talks about Jung, because Jung talks mostly about collective consciousness.
Yes, he does.
But he says that that was energy, so-called. He says that but Jung somehow said it in a vague way, as if something not tangible, that collective consciousness is same thing as the energy or organ energy that he says it's tangible and actually exists.
And where did he write about that?
I have seen only once that he talked about it, about Jung and its collective consciousness and what he describes in the book of Reich speaks of Freud. I can find it for you if you want the sentence that he said.
Okay. So it's in the Reich speaks of
Yeah.
Freud book. And a comment about sexual energy. It's not so much a question, but more a comment
Please.
about healthy and unhealthy fantasies.
That's right.
There are many people for whom sexual fantasies are very healthy and is a
Yes.
we would probably disagree on that. But I'm curious, I guess, about why it would be that
under the present circumstances, you're absolutely right. That is healthy, considering the wide spread of the unhealthiness, that is healthy. But actually, if anyone remembers his childhood, if anyone